This webinar will talk and focus on fuel cell hydrogen buses. So it is a very great pleasure to have you here. So just to give a bit of a background of our guest speaker today, is a civil engineer. It has been working for 16 years at General Motors and also additional experience at Tower International, mainly in manufacturing position in Belgium and with short assignments in USA and Australia. It has more than 10 years experience at Van Hool and is responsible for tender sales in public transports. So it is a great pleasure to have you here. I'm sure participants will greatly appreciate your experience and expertise on the topic. Just a bit of short preview of the program today. So I will be giving this introduction very short, just 5 minutes. Usually Isaida that does that. She's not here today, so it is my pleasure to take her place, but obviously she's the main drive behind the organization of this webinar and the Clean Bus in general. So greetings to her as well. Today's webinar will focus, as mentioned, on fuel cell technology. So we will have a 40 minutes presentation by Geert, and then we will have a bit of time for question and answer that you might have for him. His presentation will focus on the points you see in the slide. So we have an introduction to the technology, and we'll focus on vehicle and components, the refueling infrastructures, obviously, main advantages and drawbacks. It will also provide some examples across Europe. And finally, we'll touch upon city strategies to deploy this technology. So today's goal is really to have a clear and complete overview of fuel cell technology. What are the main features and the main challenges, the aspects that you should consider upfront when discussing this technology, some insight on safety aspects, and also which are the sources of information you can refer and further learn on this specific point. So I think it's going to be a great webinar. It is really my pleasure, also because I'm the project manager here at UATP of the JIVE projects, which are dealing with the fuel cell buses and deploying almost 300 fuel cell buses around Europe. So it is really my additional interest to be here with you today. Just before I give the floor to Geert, a bit of etiquette for today's discussion. Please mute yourself as default when the speaker is providing the presentation. You can obviously use the chat to put your questions. We will monitor the chat, so no worries. Everything will be raised up to him. Also, you can raise your hand, switch on your camera to ask to have the word, particularly at the end after the introductory presentation. And as I mentioned before, the session will be recorded. So obviously, we're very happy to be here, to be with you today, and we count on your valuable contribution for this workshop. Thanks a lot. I will stop here. I will just now give the floor to Geert, and I think you can start sharing your screen.
Thank you, Flavio, for the introduction. It is really my pleasure that we can share our experience with fuel cell buses today. Can I ask you, do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
See the presentation? Okay, then I put now in presentation mode, and we can start. So introduction was made by you. So first of all, I'm the head of sales at Van Hool. Head of sales of public transport. At Van Hool, a short introduction for the people who don't know Van Hool. We are a transport company. We provide different transport solutions in the area of coaches, public transport, and industrial vehicles. We are actually based in Belgium. We have another plant in North Macedonia, and our turnover is distributed among Europe and United States. 50% of our turnover is United States and 50% is Europe and Japan, I have to say as well. So it's balanced with 2 manufacturing plants. The plant you see on the picture is the plant in Belgium, north of Belgium. There we produce buses, but we have there also our testing facilities, R&D, engineering, after sales, central headquarters. And then North Macedonia is a pure manufacturing plant where we basically focus on series production, especially also for the United States. I start with a slide from 2018. I just reuse a slide because when we talk about fuel cell buses today, I have to tell upfront that Van Hool has invested a lot in fuel cell buses in the past, but we always see this as one of these solutions. And already in 2018, we've made the statements. I did also many presentations in the time. Still today, we count on three main pillars for the electrification or of the fleets or becoming zero emission. It is trolley in motion charging. On the chart, you see some pictures of our projects in Cagliari and Linz, a double articulated trolley bus. We work on battery electric buses, also one battery electric coach here on the picture, and we do fuel cell buses. So talking about fuel cell buses, I will always do this in a balanced way. It is one of these solutions, but of course it can be at times be a very, very good solution. But it's one of three possible strategies for electrification. Talking about today, first of all, I have to tell you that we introduced a new A-line also for the fuel cell buses. The fuel cell buses of the new A-line will come in 12-meter and articulated versions. This new A-line was developed during the COVID period. Was of course a very difficult period for many of our competitors, but also for us, of course. If there is no tourism, then there is no sale for coaches. But luckily, this is a family company. The family took immediately a strategic decision. In the future, we will come with a stronger portfolio for city buses. We take this opportunity, and the decision was really made now to leave forever diesel, gas. Van Hool city buses is only zero emission, trolley, battery and fuel cell buses. And what we try to do now in the new portfolio is to create some carryover effects and standardization among the different types. So just a quick look that we launched already in Paris in June, but in the meantime, we've been in Berlin, Stockholm, Nice. We're selling already these vehicles. Comes with a new design. But from the outside, you can't see the difference whether this is a battery bus, a hydrogen bus, or a trolley bus. Trolley bus, of course, has the Stangen or Perschen on the roof, but this zero emission bus from the outside could be a battery bus or a fuel cell bus. Some other pictures, and of course, all the buses come with low floor. Looking at the portfolio for the fuel cell bus today, we have 66 fuel cell buses in production, all of them for customers in Germany and France. And this indicates already which countries are really for the moment going hard on fuel cell, on hydrogen. We will come back to that later. Of course, we also have projects running with battery buses and with trolley buses, but today fuel cell buses, it's really alive for the moment, but it's mainly Germany and France at this point in time. Some examples of projects that we delivered with the new A-line. The buses look all a bit identical. It's the same family, but for the fuel cell bus, we are now delivering soon, as of January, I have to say, in France, in Belfort, Rouen, Pau, Lorient, Dijon, and Germany in Frankfurt, Eberswalde, Berlin, Kerpen. So good projects on the way and only increasing for hydrogen. So it's good that we can talk today about this technology. I have to say, and that is a bit on the last where I would like to end my introduction from a general point of view. At Van Hool, we also have tram look buses. Also there, same decision, only battery electric, trolley electric in motion charging or fuel cell buses. So also here, projects we delivered during last year, like this articulated trolley bus in Rimini, We have delivered, and the project is in service since June, with double articulated battery buses in Malmö, Sweden. We are working on double articulated battery electric solution for Paris, will be delivered in 2024. This is a battery electric bus with a pantograph from Alstom, so charging through the bottom of the bus. And of course, also in this portfolio, already in service since 2019, the hydrogen articulated bus in Poole. Very, very nice project, running very well since 2019, and it shows that also hydrogen can do the job as one of the solutions between trolley battery and hydrogen. And just off the record, I would like to say that for the coach, we are not yet at hydrogen. We are already delivering in the United States our electric coaches. On the picture, you see the single deck and double deck. In the meantime, more than 100 coaches are delivered and in production. So this goes very well. Europe will follow soon, and then the next step, we will go to hydrogen. I come back to that later as well. First, fuel cell bus technology. UITP asked me to also explain a bit the basics of the fuel cell and the fuel cell bus. So I've provided you with a few slides on the basics. It could be that this is some material that many of you know already, but still let's take a few minutes to talk about the basics of fuel cell bus technology. First of all, the fuel cell. You could also have an alternative with a combustion engine working on hydrogen. We believe that at this point in time, this is not an efficient strategy. So our buses work with a fuel cell. A fuel cell is also always like a battery with an anode and a cathode. On the anode, you take the hydrogen out of a container on the roof of the bus. On the cathode, you take the oxygen out of the air. Comes together through the membrane and produces electricity. Important is that the fuel cell makes no noise, no vibration. This is a chemical process. And also important to understand is that in this chemical process, you create some heat, which you can recuperate in your climatization strategy. I will also come back to that. So fuel cell, the only exhaust you have is water. Water, some drips dripping out of the tailpipe. Fuel cell bus technology, when we talk about the tank protocol, there the good news is this is a very standardized process known by everybody in the meantime. You use a standard hydrogen receptacle, and during the tanking of the bus, we will work with a standardized charging protocol. And this is in fact that you control on the bus side temperature and pressure. Also on the tank side, you control pressure and temperature. And in between both, you try to get as much hydrogen as possible into the bus while respecting some constraints. In our case, we cannot exceed the 85 degrees temperature, and we should not exceed the 420 bar while filling. And you try to do this as efficient as possible. Very well standardized fuel cell charging protocol. What was I'm gonna say here? I forgot something. Okay, SWAT. But okay, very well standardized. Hybrid bus. A fuel cell bus is always a hybrid bus. The main components of a fuel cell is hydrogen containers on the roof. You have a fuel cell. Here it's in the back. It could be on the roof as well, but it's one of the main components. Always a traction battery. Why is that? In a fuel cell bus, we will try to have the fuel cell working at an average power output. Why are we doing that? To extend the life of the fuel cell. And the peaks while accelerating or braking, and meaning recuperating of energy, all these peaks are taken with a high voltage battery. So the fuel cell bus is by definition a hybrid bus. So it's always battery electric hybrid bus. Some discussion topics that we hear frequently on fuel cell buses is, first of all, which tank protocol will I use? I said it's very well standardized with ISO standard, but the way you communicate, that you can choose. For the moment, there are three possibilities. You can establish communication via a cable. That we did in the past. I would recommend not to do that anymore. I think the better solution is or with infrared protocol. We have some projects with infrared, or you can also do it with Bluetooth fill and drive protocol. That's the protocol that is, for instance, also used with the hydrogen taxis in Paris and so. Works as well. So there are different solutions from our side. We provide both. It's just a choice you have to make. Other discussion that is frequently popping up is, will I use type 3 or type 4 containers? The answer is both can do the job, but both have advantages and disadvantages. The type 3 tank is with reinforced aluminum. That is in fact the most robust container. The type 4 is a bit lighter. It's of glass fiber, reinforced composite containers. Let's say when we talk to our customers, many times in the end they choose a type 3 container because it's more robust, and especially if you want to fill the container and if you have no pre-cooling in the infrastructure, type 3 has advantages. The type 4 can be delivered by us as well, and also our competitors. It's well available. It's lighter. You win 1 to 2 passengers, but you are 15 to 20% slower in the fill rate due to some special constraints. Sometimes we also get the question on what is the consumption of the bus. Very important here is to understand the climate strategy for very cold days and very hot days. So the average consumption of a fuel cell bus, a 12 meter, let's say 6 kilogram per 100 kilometer, or 7 kilogram. But the question is also what during cold days and warm days. And there it's important also to see what climate strategy is offered. On a fuel cell bus, as well as with battery buses, also there, we have already heat pumps on the roof, fully integrated systems, also with the convectors, sidewall convectors integrated in the heat pump. So also there, a climate strategy is possible, like we have in all other type of buses. And fourth, many times we get questions on the preconditioning. I think this is one of the main advantages of fuel cell buses. You do not have to connect to the grid. The fuel cell bus on the picture, I saw an example. Our buses have a self-start function, meaning that if your fleet management system sends a signal to the bus, I want to have, for instance, the bus preheated within 10 minutes before the driver is coming. Well, then during the 10 minutes, the bus can self-start itself. And here on the picture, you see, for instance, after 10 minutes, it was 5 degrees outside. In the driver cabin, we reached already 24 degrees. And in the passenger cabin, we reached 15 degrees. And that is all done without any connection to the grid, which could be very important if you have a depot. You don't want to invest in infrastructure. You use the self-start function. One of the interesting things with fuel cell buses. Of course, reconditioning can always happen with the standard CCS2 plugs. That of course is also possible. Maybe someone has to put on mute. Fuel cell bus technology. In terms of safety, of course, hydrogen is energy. So when working with energy, there are always risks, whether you work with diesel, gas, hydrogen, batteries. The question is, how do you engineer the bus and how do you manage risks? Hydrogen is already more than 100 years around. How do we manage hydrogen on the bus? Well, important is for safety, first of all, where you have hydrogen on the roof or in other places in the bus, it's only in the back in the end or on the roof. There we place gas detectors. And one advantage with hydrogen is it is the lightest element on Earth. It goes up 20 meters per second. If you have a leak, it will be detected immediately by the gas detector. And we give a warning when we have 0.5% hydrogen in a certain volume. And we give an alarm and stop the bus when it is 1%. For your information, hydrogen can never catch fire if it is below 4% in the volume. So we have a safety system on the bus that detects hydrogen well before any risk can happen. And to manage the risk on the hydrogen bus, it's also important to have a strategy on fire. On the green, you will see that where we have high voltage components or other risk areas, so it's all on the roof, also in the technical area in the back of the bus, we have these red lines. It's like, in our case, a KID system, where you will detect an eventual fire or an ignition. At that point in time, we will shut down immediately all hydrogen systems and the HVAC system. The bus can still drive on battery so that the driver can park, evacuate the people, and then shut down the vehicle. So very straightforward strategy in terms of safety, really due to the nature of hydrogen, because hydrogen always goes up. So it's a pretty straightforward strategy. What I would like to summarize in very consistent safety measure on the bus, but also in the workshop. It's always first try to detect hydrogen. So we have hydrogen sensors on the bus, but in the workshop we do the same. We will have a hydrogen sensor at the roof. It is then the question how to evacuate the hydrogen. In the bus, we have designed the bus so that the hydrogen always goes immediately away from the roof or never gets into the bus. In the workshop, we will have gates of roof hatches that open automatically if hydrogen is detected. And then, of course, the third element in the safety drill is to avoid any source of fire, which I explained on the bus. We have an automatic KID system that will detect an eventual source of fire. And in the workshop, you need to have other drill also with your personnel to eliminate any sort of fire in case hydrogen leak is detected. I have to say, up till now, and we are in this business with hydrogen since 2005, we never had any accident with hydrogen. So it shows that it works. Of course, always have to take to do this risk analysis in your own workshop or in your own operation. If we look backwards now to fuel cell buses and we look first backwards, I would say 10 years before looking forward. If we look backwards, what are then the major learnings on hydrogen buses? I have to say, when we look backwards as Van Hool, we can look backwards to 208 fuel cell buses, more than 10 million driven kilometers, buses really in service. So it means that we have some good experience to make an analysis of the past. What we also see is that many of the customers have repeated orders. So it shows that if the hydrogen bus, the first project, little project works, operators tend to go to bigger fleets. So it's a proof that hydrogen can do the job. And during the last 10 years, in the meantime, we've also worked together as Van Hool with different hydrogen suppliers. Like in Antwerp, we work with H2 Logic. In a project in Po, we work with Linde and in Wuppertal, I think there is also Maximator and so on and so on. It also shows that in the meantime, there is a lot of competition on this market and there are many providers of hydrogen. And all these providers, I would say, work with the same standards for the tank infrastructure. All the buses are standard buses, whether it's in Antwerp, Wuppertal, Versailles, Groningen. They can be tanked with these tank stations thanks to the standardized ISO tank protocol. Looking backwards, I would like to make 5 points. The mood has changed toward hydrogen. Technology has changed. Competitive arena has changed. There is now bus data available. And we have some changing priorities when we talk about zero emission fleets. First of all, changing mood. I have to say, as Van Hool, when we started in 2005, we delivered our first fuel cell buses in the United States. It took really nearly 10 years. You see only 5 buses here, 1615. We were very early in this process, demonstrating really that the buses work, that fuel cell can do the job. But many times when we were in conferences and when talking to people, it was believers talking to believers. It was like an inner crowd. But we have seen this changing as of 2016. And in the meantime, I saw also on the last VDV conference in Berlin, hydrogen was really on the list. I would even say it was one of the main topics. So in the last 10 years, there is an incredible change in mood towards hydrogen, and we are very happy about that. But it took a while, and I think we see now this hockey stick, and it started now, and it will never fall back. That is now really clear for us in our strategy. When we look in the last 10 years, there has been a lot of changes in technology. I give just a few examples. At Van Hool, we are now already at the 3rd generation of fuel cell buses. But for instance, in the 2nd generation, we still had a conventional airco. We had a fuel cell in the back. And in the new bus, we have, in the 3rd generation, we work now with a heat pump. We have a fuel cell on the roof. Our supplier, in this case, is Ballard, is compressing the volume of what they need, getting more efficient components. During 10 years, a huge evolution in technology. I have to say, what you see on the screen is just a little bit of the change, because the major changes are, of course, in the software. It's like in your mobile phone. The real magic is inside in the software and so on. All that has changed dramatically during the last 10 years. And we're coming now to a level that we can say is very reliable buses. Also, when I look back to 2014, it was just a few companies, but today there is in each area bus suppliers for hydrogen buses. You have Van Hool, but also Safra, Solaris, Caetano, Wrightbus. I forget lots of them, I'm sure. Fuel cell suppliers, you have Ballard, Symbio, Hyundai, Toyota, Loop. H2 tank suppliers, Luxfer, Worthington, Hexagon. The competitive arena is there today, which was not the case a few years ago. But also there, I think hydrogen is really evolving to one of the major solutions for zero emission and electrification. What is also different than 10 years ago, today we have really data out of the fleets, out of the field. I give some example here. On the picture, you see different projects. Each project has 8 to 30 buses. Like in the Netherlands, it's a project with 30 buses. In France, it's 8. Germany is one with 10 buses, the other with 30. When we take that average consumption over 2 years, we start seeing that here in the Netherlands, it's 7.2 kilogram per 100 kilometer. In this German project is 9.5 kilogram per 100 kilometer. The message is we have a lot of operational data today, which we can analyze. We can analyze the impact of different operational speeds. It makes a big difference if you drive an average 20 kilometers an hour or 45. Profile of the route is city bus versus articulated bus, like the 8.8 kilogram per 100 kilometer is the average for an articulated bus. So really good data now to continue working for the future. What we've also seen in the meantime is that priorities for why to use hydrogen, well, these priorities have changed. First of all, in the past, when talking about hydrogen, I would always have started with hydrogen gives you more range, you can tank it faster. today, if I say priority number 1, why to choose for fuel cell buses, for us, also from the feedback from the customers, is operational flexibility, which is very important if you go to big fleets. It is not so complicated to electrify 2 buses or 5 buses. It becomes complex if we talk about 50 or 100 zero-emission buses. And there, the advantage of hydrogen is really apparent, because a hydrogen bus, you can tank it in the morning at the tank station, you can drive the full day, you have plenty of autonomy, buses come back in the evening, and you can park them. You don't need connection to the grid. And that's important, because if you go to battery electric solutions, many times you need also charging infrastructure for depot charging. So you need extra space. And what is most expensive in big cities like Berlin, Paris, and Brussels and so? Well, it's space, because you need the buses in the center of the city, and their space is very expensive. So that we see more and more as the main advantage for fuel cell buses, apart of the fact, of course, that the charging time is much faster than a battery bus. I give an example: fuel cell bus 12 meter, we can charge in 8 minutes. But even if you charge a battery bus at 400 kilowatt, you will need, let's say, 1 hour, and a depot charging at 80 kilowatt, you need 5 hours. The difference is clear. Also, the range, a fuel cell bus will always have approximately 50% more energy on the bus than a comparable battery bus. And on top, you can recuperate the heat of the fuel stack. So one reason why you would choose for fuel cell buses. But again, operational flexibility is for me one of the main topics. Other reasons, I said already, if you're really in a cold climate, hydrogen can give you this extra energy due to the chemical process, because in the fuel cell we also produce heat. Compare that to a battery. Battery is more cold energy, so that's an advantage. 5, the straightforward safety concept. I explained that to you. Personally, we see this growing as one of the bigger priorities, especially with bigger fleets. We also produce battery buses and deliver battery buses, but it's clear that if you park 10 buses, 10 battery buses or 10 hydrogen buses, the battery bus needs more risk management than the hydrogen bus, due to the fact that if one battery bus catches fire, it's very difficult to stop the fire. Hydrogen bus, in that sense, is more straightforward and a bit more easier to manage. And then, of course, the hydrogen bus can be a big advantage if you start comparing now, not with buses, but with the tram. As an example, the project in Po, from order till delivery of the complete project, including the infrastructure in the city. It's really a BRT system, bus rapid transit, mainline in Po. Well, 2.5 years to implement the complete BRT system. On top, you have no rails, no catenary wiring, no charging infrastructure in the city. That's also why you can implement it very fast. Because many times, if you start digging into the ground, you need authorities. You have sometimes big issues with people in the city, and so tram projects can be project. Hydrogen can offer a solution that is very flexible with buses and fast implementation, offer fast implementation. But again, if I see one topic starting more important, becoming more important when we go to big fleets, in my opinion, is the safety concept. Looking forward, then I would like to mention a few topics. First of all, at Van Hool, but you could have different strategies, other strategies. We believe in hydrogen dominant buses. I will explain why. I will also talk a bit about what we believe about scaling up in terms of power for the fuel cell bus, passenger capacities, and so on. Then talk a bit on how to make your choice for a hydrogen bus and some future hydrogen developments. Looking forwards, first of all, when we look forward, we really believe hydrogen will be an important choice for a zero-emission bus system, but only really if autonomy is needed. And we believe autonomy will become more and more important with longer distance, higher speeds, and also if high operational constraints exist. Constraints like lack of space, management complexity of big fleets, if you have a difficult grid stability in your city. If that is the case, then I think hydrogen comes into the picture. If you make a comparison on the TCO between a battery bus and a hydrogen bus, just one bus to one bus, I can tell upfront the battery bus is always the cheapest solution. So if you need a zero emission bus, at least I can only say our opinion, but I think it's also supported by facts. If you need a battery, if you need a zero emission solution with less than 200 kilometers in autonomy, the simple battery bus with plug-in is probably the best solution. But if you need more autonomy and if you have specific operational constraints, then hydrogen comes in the picture. But then we believe if you go to hydrogen, you should make it dominant. I know that not all competitors we have the same strategy. Some competitors believe more in a hydrogen strategy with range extenders. We believe that is not the right strategy, but again, this is our philosophy. We believe if you start mixing strategies and you have a bus that you need to charge with hydrogen and you need to charge with electricity and connect to the grid as well, then you have two technologies. You are duplicating charging strategies. We believe this is counterproductive because hydrogen you would only need for extended autonomy. So go immediately then for full hydrogen. And also operational constraints, if you have them, then definitely not mix with mixed charging strategies because it will only complicate the issue further. So in our choice, our strategy is go for clear choices, simplify. I would say below 200 kilometer, go for battery electric plug-in. Beyond the 200 or 250 kilometers autonomy, or if you have real operational constraints, go immediately full hydrogen. I put it here a bit black and white. Life is not black and white, but just as a vision, that's what we believe in. Now, if we go hydrogen dominant, what is important for a company like Van Hool is that we look at the roadmap and look at the buses we will need in the future. Bigger autonomy, higher speeds, longer distances. We will need stronger drivetrains. This is just some examples of scenarios we plot, but even with a 12-meter hydrogen, if we go intercity and if we have to climb up hills until 16 degrees and so on, also in a 12-meter, we have currently 100 kilowatt fuel cells. We will need to go to 170 kilowatt. We will need to go to 100 kilowatt fuel cells. The same for the articulated version. If we want to offer buses for the complete spectrum of hydrogen dominant buses, we will need minimum 100 kilowatt, but even up to 150 kilowatt fuel cells to have enough power to drive also intercity traffic with articulated buses, drive uphill until even 20% degrees and so on. Well, until now, let's say until recently, these powerful fuel cells were not available. But also there, if we look in the future, in the future, it looks pretty good because we see now, and I just gave a few examples. It's not exhaustive, but Ballard offers in the meantime fuel cells with more than 100 kilowatt. We have Hyundai that offers fuel cell of more than 100 kilowatt. Symbio as well is developing and coming soon. Loop as well, and that is good news because we believe we are now from a technological point of view ready to go to the next step and to develop fuel cell buses, city buses that can do the job in all situations. So also Van Hool, we will come with the articulated fuel cell bus. We'll have the same components like with the 12-meter bus. So with hydrogen containers on the roof, with heat pumps, with some traction batteries, and the buses will have single or double traction depending the application. We'll be able to carry 48 kilogram of hydrogen, still at 350 bar. We will come with a heat pump, of course, and offer the different solutions. Some conclusions, I would say we've been waiting a bit for the right fuel cell stacks because we don't want to go the way with range extenders. We want to be hydrogen dominant, but we are very positive now that the suppliers are ready. Hydrogen containers, I think we can say we have very reliable storage systems available for 350 bar. We believe more work is to be done on the 700 bar and especially the liquid hydrogen. Why do I mention that? Is that with 350 bar, let's say we can easily reach an autonomy of 350, 400 kilometers a day. But if we want to go direction 700 kilometers, we will probably need to go to 700 bar. And if we want to have an autonomy with a hydrogen bus or coach of 1000 kilometers, then we will need to go to liquid hydrogen. So that is absolutely an area that needs to be further developed in the future. And infrastructure, I have to say, what is really different than the past. In the past, it was believers talking to believers. We were working together with, and I'm very grateful for all the cities that have deployed city buses, and also the European Union, I have to say, with the very good support in terms of subsidies. But it was always little projects, and as part of the project, also a tank infrastructure was developed. The big change now, and that's really good, is that this hydrogen infrastructure is getting provided because it is getting legal. It's really pushed by legal frameworks. This deployment cannot stop anymore. In the next time frame of 10 years, cities and countries are forced to invest in hydrogen infrastructure, which is very promising for us as a manufacturer, because this gives us somewhere the guarantee that we can continue to develop hydrogen buses. And my conclusions as Van Hool would be, yes, of course, we will continue to invest in the development of hydrogen buses because we see the three main elements are getting available. We have the right powertrains. We see that evolution is coming towards 700 bar liquid hydrogen, and we see that hydrogen infrastructure is developed. But our pace of development of the buses will in any case be function of these three components. And I would like to take one step back again. I say all this always in the picture that we stay neutral towards the zero emission variant. It could be trolley, it could be battery, it could be hydrogen. It's not a competition between the three. The three are very good, and it depends on which application that you should choose for one of the three. And in that sense, I would say, as Van Hool, we always try to work with the customers and starting from a technology neutral data analysis, where we check the profiles, the routes, and make recommendations on the optimal drivetrain and the optimal energy solution, whether it is battery or fuel cell or trolley. And ideally, we believe the starting point is facts and figures, so it's data analysis. And also as a recommendation, if you do your own analysis, look really to your specific situation because every situation is different. Is there already a tank infrastructure available? Is there maybe a hydrogen pipeline somewhere close to your area? Can you make use of green flexible tank containers? And I just took here a solution of Everfuel. There is already a lot of solutions offered by suppliers that can bring you the hydrogen, green hydrogen, to your place with a container like in a certain milk run, that every 24 hours you will get a new container, or if you get a new container when it's empty with hydrogen. You don't need in these solutions to invest in put capex aside for investment in infrastructure, the only thing you do in these type of solutions is you pay X euro for the kilogram of hydrogen. So, for instance, you pay for a certain just operational cost. That's what I want to say. So this is just the OPEX solution. So there's a lot of solutions. I think you need to investigate whether you can do that. And of course, important, what is your specific situation in the depot? Do you have space to add charging infrastructure? What is the current market price of extra space if you have to buy it? And of course, always very important in your analysis, what is the situation in your grid? Can your grid still take some peak performances if you have to charge all buses at night with electricity? Is the grid stable? It are important elements of the complete analysis. In any case, for us at Van Hool, we have a charging area where we provide, where we are ready with all different types of depot charging. We have different solutions with pantograph charging in our plant here in Belgium, but we have also our own tank station, and we as well work with a simple trailer, which is brought when the hydrogen is, we have no hydrogen anymore. I have to say that we work with only 200 bar. We use hydrogen buses in our plant only for testing reasons. But in any case, we try to stay neutral here and try to provide all types of solutions. For the future, well, we will continue in any case to develop our hydrogen portfolio, starting from the articulated fuel cell bus we have already in service since 2019. We will come to market now with a more standardized model, but we would like to come immediately with powertrains that can do the job in all different applications. We are already investigating whether we extend the hydrogen solution we have in Po with articulated to the double articulated. I predict that in 2025 we will be ready to bring this to the market. And of course, we are already delivering electric battery coaches. For sure, one of the next steps will and should be hydrogen, but there the planning is still a bit unclear, depends also on other factors like infrastructure. With this, I took my 45 minutes. I thank you a lot for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks a lot, Geert, for this very comprehensive overview over the topic. I think you touched upon several important aspects of the technology, which is obviously a promising one. But as you mentioned, I really liked the conclusion part of your presentation about the specific conditions that needs to be in place to allow a certain technology to flourish and to be an optimal solution for a zero emission strategy for our bus fleet. We have already quite some questions from the audience, so we'll start with the one posed by Alexandre. That is asking about the outside operating temperature range for the technology. So in particular, how does fuel cell perform in sub-zero temperature? If you have any insight on this.
Okay, you mean when it's like minus 10 degrees outside
Yes.
and so on? The fuel cell has no specific problem there. In the past, in the first 2 generations, we still had to connect the fuel cell to the grid to avoid freezing of the fuel cell, especially the membrane. There was a weak point in the past, but all the manufacturers of fuel cells are now beyond that. And even the membrane, the fuel cell itself, if you park it outside, there is no antifreeze protection needed anymore. So there we are fine. And of course, in operation, the fuel cell works at any temperature. There is no problem to start. There could be a problem with batteries, but that's not the case for the fuel cell.
Thanks a lot. That's quite clear, and I think it was very interesting. I was also recently in a visit, in a technical visit, where this was specified. So I think it's quite important for attendees of this webinar to know. Then, like another question related to information in terms of passenger capacity by comparing a fuel cell buses with an e-bus. And also in terms of battery weight, if you can elaborate on that.
Let me think. I would say that a fuel cell bus can take the same number of passengers compared, let's say, a battery bus with maybe 450 kilowatt hour on the roof, I would say. So the number of passengers is not really an issue when you talk about a 12-meter bus. The total weight on the roof or even in the floor, whatever, is comparable. But it is we can carry in the new fuel cell bus. I'm sorry, I should know this by heart, but I think 78 passengers approximately. It's not easy to answer because, of course, legislation in France is different than in Germany and in the Netherlands and Belgium. But let's say direction 80 passengers in a 12-meter bus is okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that's quite clear. There are a couple of considerations from Faizula. Yes, I mean, he's asking about choices regarding high numbers of zero-emission solution, like 100 buses. Well, as we mentioned, I think in the presentation, it really depends from the conditions that are in place for this. But yeah, from the audience, they're also asking about the TCO calculation, how you take economic lifetime of a bus, 10 years, 15 years. So if you can also touch upon this.
Well, I would say definitely 15 years,
yes.
Let's say, you take as a lifetime. What is important with a fuel cell bus, first of all, the traction battery in general is an LTO battery, so very robust, which is only used also for the hybrid functionality, meaning that you keep it a bit on also on an average level. So the lifetime of this battery is very, very long. And the fuel cell bus, the fuel cell itself, the heart of the system, it's also an expensive component. One advantage you have in any case is that, let's say after 30,000 hours, approximately, maybe more, but the reality, to be honest, nobody has an experience yet with more than 35,000 hours of working with fuel cells. We have it only in our projects in the United States, and the fuel cell buses are still driving since 2005, and they passed already the 1 million kilometers. But here in Europe, I have to say, nobody passed 35,000 hours of service. But if you reach that point, one advantage is that you can overhaul the fuel cell. Calculate still with maybe 30,000 euros, so it is not little money, but it's not a new fuel cell. And when you go with the battery bus, you will have to replace the batteries, which is a big investment in the end, because no battery bus can reach 15 years. I cannot believe that. At a certain time, the state of health will be below 70% or something. You need to change the battery. Fuel cell, you can overhaul. This important aspect to take in the TCO.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think this is really.
If I can also say, sorry to interrupt. The main question today, if you do the TCO calculation, is, I have to say, the price of the hydrogen. And that is the factor that is determining the positive or negative outcome of the business case. I have to say that we were doing really good with hydrogen. Only the last year we are struggling a bit because prices of hydrogen are a bit exploding due to the current crisis we have. But maybe we have to stay confident and see that in the next years these prices will come back to normal level. We see TCOs, if we can go below the 10 euro per kilogram, then a TCO of a fleet of fuel cell buses will work. But the current prices, you really need to make your own calculation, but the current prices is not going in the right direction. I have to say this.
Yeah, thanks a lot for pointing this out. I think these two elements are really key when we evaluate these two with the technology.
And I'm sorry, I also want to add one thing because I don't want to give now the wrong impression. If you have, and that solutions are also being developed like in the north of Germany and so on. If you have, of course, a stable source of green electricity, and some providers have contracts with like windmills in the sea, and you have a stable source of electricity, green electricity, and that can feed your, by preference, big electrolyzer, believe me, then the TCO of hydrogen can win easily against battery buses. But you need to have a stable source of green electricity, key factor. If not, and that's also coming, we can export green hydrogen. We can export it from North Africa, Sudan, whatever. It are molecules, so you can also bring them by ship, green molecules, but it will take a bit more time. Let's say the time frame 2025, 2030. But there is also a very good solution coming up for green, cheap hydrogen. So also here, a balanced answer. As always, you have to look at your specific situation.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. Really, I think this is really provide a very comprehensive overview about this wide topic. Another question for you is related to the infrastructure of hydrogen. So, what pushes cities to invest in this? It is mentioned the EU audience is asking about the exact directive. Well, as a main introduction, I can just say to you that there is the Clean Vehicle Directive, but the Clean Vehicle Directive, which relates to procurement quotas in clean bus fleet deployments, does not really touch upon the infrastructure. So if you can, elaborate on this.
Well, if I understood the question correctly, why would you be pushed towards hydrogen in terms of infrastructure? I think many of the cities already today are struggling with the electric grid already today, because everything is getting electrified. Stability of the grid, major problem. And then you're going to invest in a fleet of buses, you need to electrify, and then you're going to say to the authorities, hey, now, as of next year, I will charge 100 buses every night, a peak, and so on. Going to be a big problem in many situations. Hydrogen is different. You can bring it, like with a tank solution or whatever, to the location, to your depot, and you can charge on the spot without having any impact on the grid in that location. And there, I think, is one of the major drivers. Why? Because we talk about investing in infrastructure. The question could be raised differently. Do you need to invest in infrastructure? There are already providers that can bring you the hydrogen and you only pay for the operational cost. I don't know whether I answered your question now, but or tell me if I didn't answer. I don't know.
No, I think it's pretty clear. Okay. I mean, obviously, these are quite a complex framework that needs to be taken in consideration. So, exactly. Obviously, a specific answer it's quite difficult to provide, but it's more depending about political choices. Obviously, the conditions there are perhaps already in place or not in certain places in Europe, in terms of potentiality for hydrogen production. So there's many elements in this game. Another question we have, so I'm happy to say that we received quite a number of questions from the audience, is about the rate between the A12E and the A12C in relation to the delivery of the bus. And related to this, perhaps you can also touch upon what is the expected life cycle of the fuel cell, even if we mentioned perhaps this before.
So are you asking about the delivery times for the buses?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And well, the money range, I guess, also.
Okay. Let's say 12-meter bus. Yeah, we can deliver this in 12 months, let's say. I have also to say openly, especially the last year, there are major disruptions in the supply chain with components and suppliers that cannot deliver or cancel, and now we have to find alternatives. So it's a very complex situation today. But let's say in normal situations we can deliver in 12 months. I think a standard fuel cell bus is below the 600,000. It also depends on what onboard equipment you want and so on, but to say definitely south of 600,000. Articulated bus, in our case, it will be rather in the second half of 2024 that we will delivering because we are continuing with some test cycles. There, the price setting I cannot communicate yet.
Yes, thanks a lot. I can imagine that, but anyways, thanks a lot for your answer. Another aspect that has been asked here is there any known major problems for hot countries or cities when there is a high use of air conditioning and with strong hills? Is that compromise with the number of passengers that the places needs to achieve? I think it's quite interesting aspect that has been asked here in terms of like operational flexibility of the technology at use.
Let's say first the hills. We have different drivetrains. Like we have a drivetrain with 160 kilowatt, we have a drivetrain with 220 kilowatts. So the hills as such is not a problem. We can fit the drivetrain. And we see also in many applications this works, no worries. The only thing what we have not tested profoundly is, for instance, operations on 2,000 meter highs or 2,500. Let's say you have a ski station to go skiing and you want a zero emission bus in the mountains. It's of course possible. We haven't done it yet. That we would then need to investigate. Why I say that? Because the oxygen is different at 2,000 meters. But I think you mentioned more the normal hills. But if you go really into the Alps and in the ski stations, yeah, there's some further testing would have to be done. In terms of very hot climate, there maybe the battery itself is more the number one factor that we need to make sure that the battery is not damaged by the heats. Excuse me. I hope I thought I put here on off recording for that. Try to close my phone. Yeah, we have not really done a lot of testing like by 40 degrees, 45. We get many times requests like from the Middle East, also to go with hydrogen buses. But there sometimes you also have combination with sand and really extreme temperatures. I have to answer in all honesty, more investigation to be done. Can the fuel cell bus do the job? For sure, but the testing and so on, we haven't done yet.
Thanks a lot. I think this is quite important elements to consider. But okay, thanks a lot for your answer. It gives I think it gives a clear picture on this. I think there is only one final answer which relates to the which is a bit, I think, difficult to answer, but relates to the price expectation levels of the hydrogen as a fuel compressed at the dispenser. Consider that is produced from electricity or gas. Also, if this can have an impact in relation to the fleet size, so more or less 50 fuel cell buses refueled at the hydrogen refueling station. I mean, obviously, there is an increased price, as you mentioned, all over Europe for the price of hydrogen. But if you have any price expectation levels, do you think it's? I've seen that, like, to be honest, there is quite it's quite difficult to have it now because the fluctuation is quite a lot, and it depends also from different conditions that we mentioned before. So, but if you can. Yeah, elaborate.
Well, in any case, we are pretty positive about this evolution, but it could take a few years. But if you see today in the north of Africa, Saudi Arabia, they can produce hydrogen at 2-3 euros per kilogram. The solar panels there, it's green hydrogen, and because the solar panels there have a yield of 3 times the yields of the yield in West Europe. So if you invest in a solar panel in the desert, it gives you 3 times the electricity compared to here. So and if you do then the electrolyzer and so on, that's why you reach only 2 to 3 euro. And if you start transporting, once this gets on stream and this green hydrogen comes abundantly available, then I think we are really off for hydrogen. So, and we would tend to be very positive about hydrogen. That's also why we started already in 2005, because from an operational aspect, what would you, it's like you run a diesel fleet. You tank the buses in the morning, you drive full day, it's like a dream, but you need to have the hydrogen at the right price. I said today it's pretty unstable. I don't know the answer, what will happen in the short term, but in the long term, if we have these windmills producing electricity for electrolyzers in Europe and we can import green hydrogen, I think we should have a very good future for hydrogen at affordable prices.
Yes, thanks a lot. I think that's obviously there is. I share with you the need for optimism, and I'm sure like this period will be a temporary one. So, but in general, these are not concern only hydrogen, but obviously electricity in general. And as we mentioned, it's quite peculiar condition nowadays. I think there are no other questions that I see from the audience. I just want to thank you very much for being here with us today, for providing this very comprehensive presentation, for answering the questions. As we mentioned, the webinar will be uploaded in the Clean Bus Europe website together with the presentation of today. Also from our side, thanks so much for all the attendees to join us today, and we'll be in touch shortly with the next events and activities of the Clean Bus Europe platform. Thanks again, Geert, and yeah, have a lovely afternoon to you all.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the moderation, Flavio.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.